Hello, welcome back to Four High Schoolers. Today, we're going to be talking about a clash of values in the 1920s. First, nativism and the immigration policies. Even though that the 1920s was full of economic growth, they also low-key had a bunch of turmoil. Does anyone know why?
Well, things such as economic recession and an influx of immigrants and cultural tensions combined to create disalignment and intolerance.
I agree.
I agree.
A lot of people hated immigrants coming in, and there was a strong sense of nativism.
Malachi, what's nativism?
Yeah, for the people at home that don't really know what that is.
Well, nativism is a belief that one's native land needs to be protected against immigrants. Other
Why?
reasons,
Why did they feel like it needed to be protected?
because they did not like immigrants because they thought they were taking their jobs, and they blamed the bombings and strikes of post-war from immigrants.
Really?
What bombings?
Really?
Well, nativism, that is quite a topic, but the one thing I came here wanting to talk about was the spaghetti case.
Spaghetti case?
What's that, Brody?
Oh, yep, not the spaghetti case. The Sacco Vanzetti case.
Oh, I see what you
Oh,
mean.
Common
I see what you did
misconception.
there.
Common
Yeah.
misconception. So, the Sacco Vanzetti case happened on April 15th, I do believe, on 1920. Two men robbed and murdered two workers at a shoe factory in Massachusetts, right? And two men arrested were Italian immigrants. The reason it's called the Sacco Vanzetti case is because the two men's names were Nicola and Bartholomew. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
The
I think
two-
it might have been Bartolomeo or something. I can't speak
Bartolomeo,
Italian.
or some or other Italian, you know.
Yeah.
The two people were anarchists. For those who don't know what anarchist is, are people who resist government. Sacco had a gun that was very similar to a gun used to the murders. The evidence seemed kind of sus and wasn't all the way, but they were found guilty and sentenced to death anyways.
Ooh. So it was kind of a rigged case.
Yeah, some people are thinking it's because they were immigrants that it went along that far, and if they were just native to the United States, it would have they might not have been arrested before.
So that created the Italian political unrest.
If you want to consider it like that, yeah, I suppose. But
Yeah.
it just kind of raised tensions between a bunch of people, and it kind of started distrust.
Oh.
Of the police.
Now, do you think the police knew it was these two, or they just did it because they were immigrants?
That I guess we'll never know, you know,
I
because
think, me personally, sorry to interrupt you here, but I think
you're
personally it's probably because he had not only the same gun, or a gun similar to it, it's also because they're anarchists. They probably knew that. They probably weren't very cooperating with it if they were trying to ask him questions and stuff.
Yeah.
But I
But-
bet them being immigrants probably just added to it.
But the evidence was questionable, so.
Yeah, there was. I don't think there would have been enough evidence there to sentence them to death, but
Now, do you
I
think
guess.
that this made people believe more in nativism because the immigrants caused the crime?
You know, you don't even know if they caused the crime, but I do believe that nativism was involved, even if just slightly, because nativism was the reason this happened. You know.
And before they got sentenced to death, Bartholomew, or whatever it is, Vanzetti, he had a quote: "I might have died, unmarked, unknown, even a failure. Not now, we are not a failure. This is our career and our triumph."
Exactly. So, do you guys think that this was a good case, or they deserved this, or what?
I think they did deserve it because they weren't anarchists and they had the gun that matched the bullet.
I think they probably should have found a little more evidence on it. But if they did find a little more and it was them, then yeah, they did the good job. But
True.
if it wasn't, oh well.
I
Life
agree.
goes on.
Facts.
Now, tell me about another group that hated immigrants.
Oh, what was their name? The Ku Klux Klan. That's what it was. If you don't know what the Ku Klux Klan, or in other words, the KKK, it is a group that began in the South after the Civil War and threatened to scare African Americans.
Ah. Okay. So, was there a lot of people in the KKK?
There were about 1 million, a
Dang.
little more than 1 million. I
Now,
think.
did they only target the African American community or all immigrants?
Oh, not necessarily all immigrants, but anyone who they thought was non-American, such as Catholics. They didn't like Jews and people that weren't American enough. The saddest part is one time they had as many as 4 million members.
Really?
Or a little under, but
That's
we'll round
crazy.
up.
Man, I was off.
But
Jeez.
the Klan membership is shrinking, but
That's good.
they're still returning. But they're struggling right now, so that's good at least.
Do we know how many there are now, or no?
I don't know. Do any of you guys?
I have no idea.
It can't
not
be any
sure.
more than 4 million.
Yeah, let's hope it's shrinking.
Yeah. So when did the KKK start?
I think the KKK started in like 1915, right?
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
1915.
Huh.
And what was the creator's name again? William something?
William Simmons?
Yeah,
J.J. Simmons or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that has to tie with nativism too, I guess.
True.
If you really think about it.
Nativists are pretty bad people, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about the National Origins Act?
Well, American immigration policies became more restrictive in response to native groups like the KKK. And some business leaders who favored immigration as a source of a cheap labor now saw that new immigrants as radicals.
Oh.
Jeez. Radicals, huh? That's kind of harsh, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Anything happen after that?
Well, in 1921, President Harding signed an Emergency Quota Act, which restricted annual admission to the United States by ethnic groups.
That's
and in
nice.
1924, the National Origins Act made immigration restrictions a permanent policy. The law set 2 quotas at 2% of each national group, restricted in the U.S. Census of 1890, long before the heavy wave of Catholic and Jewish immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe. As a result, new quotas deliberately favored immigrants from Northwest Europe.
That makes sense because the KKK didn't like Catholics or Jews, and then they tried to ban them.
Yep.
So maybe there's some KKK people in office.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think back in those days there was a lot of racist people.
Facts.
They didn't want certain people coming in, they let others. Terrible thing.
It is.
Angel and Ellis Island were definitely full of people that were just sent back home.
For no reason.
Well, another topic that we gotta talk about is a clash of cultures.
Oh.
Really?
Braden, what was the clash of cultures?
A clash of cultures was when people went against traditional values. They feared a new morality was taking over. This trend glorified youth and personal freedom, and it brought big changes, especially for women.
So, well, what really happened to the women?
Well, with the woman, they had many changes. For example, women used to always have long hair, but now they started to change that. They would have shorter hair, and women even got jobs, got college degrees, stuff that these days seems common, but back then was kind of a weird sighting.
Braden, what was a major change in the early 1920s for women?
Fashion.
Fashion?
Fashion changed a lot. They had their hair bobbed, which basically means shortened. They had their hair in like weird colors and stuff, and they wore like very colorful clothes, which wasn't very common back then.
Well, I got a couple more things. They also wore shorter dresses, and they got the right to vote.
When they get to vote.
I think it was 1919.
And what state again?
Wyoming, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it was Wyoming.
No, that's when the Congress just passed the act. All states, women were legally allowed to vote.
Nice polls.
Yep, and then a lot of women started, to break away from their, usual jobs of working in the home. They
Oh,
started
yeah.
getting, jobs other places, making money instead of staying home and taking care of the kids.
Good for
And
them.
that was a huge change back then.
That
I
is.
mean, it's pretty common nowadays.
Yeah.
So it's like weird to think,
That's true.
Yeah.
And just to backpack off of that, these new jobs that women are getting were actually like a really good thing, because with higher education and stuff, it allowed women to get like jobs in healthcare and stuff. And there's actually something that happened. There was a woman by the name of Florence Sabin, and she was researching like the cure and stuff for like tuberculosis, or helping out with that. And it caused like a dramatic drop in tuberculosis cases and tuberculosis deaths and things like that. And I'm not sure who it was, but there was also something else that like helped out with birth control. So birth control like prices or use, sorry, like skyrocketed through the roof.
Margaret Singer, right? Or Sanger?
I think so, something like that.
Yeah, that reminds me of Marie Curie. I can't remember what she figured out, but that scientist you guys know.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, she discovered mercury.
Yeah, mercury.
The
That
Oh
was,
yeah.
that was also something that probably never would have happened if this.
Yeah.
So this all started women getting jobs. This started in World War One, correct?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they were all at war and they needed people
Yeah.
to like fill other stuff.
Yep.
So I guess if anything happened out of the war, that's probably one of the only good things.
Facts.
It's one of the better things for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And think about it. Basically, a lot of like nurses and doctors are women because they're more like caring, I
Yeah.
guess. You could
Yeah.
say.
It's just kind of in their nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess clash of cultures. That's not too bad.
And then, what about Sigmund Freud?
Sigmund Freud, what did he do?
Like a lot of people looked at women as like objects back then. He
Right.
tried to say they were more than that, and that's cool for a guy to do.
Yeah.
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 Especially, yeah, for a guy.
Yeah. It's that.
Could you imagine doing that back then?
Facts. He probably got hated on by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Times are really different back in those days.
And I guess going along with this clash of cultures came because women and alcohol and things like that, men going home spending their money on alcohol, things like that, came like the support of prohibition,
Oh.
which for those that don't know is the banning of alcohol and things like that.
Now, Malachi, why did they try to ban alcohol?
They tried banning alcohol because there's these men that would go home, they'd work, and they'd come home and they'd spend all their hard-earned money on alcohol and things like that. And alcohol also could probably, lead to abuse and other things like that, mistreatment of children, other things like that, and just many, many bad things. So the women tried rising up and fighting against alcohol, and it did become a thing for a while, but it also led to many other bad things.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. If I'm being honest, prohibition didn't really help anything.
No, I think
No,
it made
it
it
really didn't.
worse.
The crime raised
True.
because
Mhm.
people were getting alcohol. They were selling it illegally, buying it illegally.
Yep.
So a lot of people got in trouble, and it really didn't stop. The physical abuse, the mental abuse of people.
It really
so
didn't.
Other people's mental health. So I don't know. In the later 1920s or the early 1920s, they unbanned alcohol.
Yeah.
That was a good move. Because I know, well, not saying alcohol is good, but it brought a lot of stuff. Like, for example, people are smuggling it from Canada and Caribbean countries,
Mhm.
which was a big business. And,
Another big thing that happened when prohibition was going on? Speakeasies.
oh, what's that?
A speakeasy is like a bar, but it's hidden. It's like a secret room almost, where people, it's literally just a bar.
Yeah.
But the police don't know about it and stuff, so they can sell alcohol, make money, and
shoot.
people go there to drink and stuff. So
Wasn't there like a bunch in like New York?
there was a lot in New York. Around 32,000 bars sold illegal liquor
Just in one
Yeesh.
city.
just in one
All in
city.
one
It's
city.
crazy. Just think, New York was a lot smaller back in those days.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I guess fun fact for you guys: if prohibition never happened, we would never have like NASCAR.
Actually,
NASCAR wouldn't be around
explain.
because man, how do I explain this? People would get away in cars and they'd have to chase them. And I guess that became a tradition. almost.
Yeah.
And that's how you got NASCAR.
So that led to NASCAR.
I believe so.
That's pretty
Huh.
interesting.
Or street racing.
Oh yeah.
Horse races, of course.
Now, Braden, where did these during the Prohibition Act? Where did people smuggle alcohol in from?
I think like Canada and a lot of Caribbean countries, like Cuba and stuff. I know Mexico was bad too on like the California border. People would leave to eat alcohol, but
You know, do you think that people made a bunch of alcohol at home, like moonshine?
oh yeah, for sure. I think in like rural areas especially, people began
Yeah.
bootlegging alcohol.
Oh, what's bootlegging?
That's the illegal production of alcohol.
Oh,
So,
all right,
yeah.
all right. So what else happened during the Prohibition?
Well, the 21st Amendment, ratified in 1933, got rid of the 18th Amendment. So that was good.
Which I guess is a little correction from you earlier because you said that was in 1920. It was in
Oh,
1933, not 1920, but
Oh shoot!
simple mistake. There's a lot of dates going on and
There's
stuff.
a lot of
Facts.
things. My bad.
Facts.
So what happened when they got rid of the 18th Amendment?
I think a lot of people are happy. Diseases and social problems got reduced by a lot, but it did not improve society at all, really, as its supporters had hoped.
Huh.
Yeah.
So do you think prohibition was a good idea at the time?
I could see how it would have been.
I can definitely see why many people thought it was a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
but once you passed it, it really just wasn't good for
Yeah.
the majority of the time.
It's kind of like drugs in our country today.
Mm.
They have everything was illegal. There was a bunch of illegal drug dealing and stuff.
True.
They legalized it in some states, and the crime rate has just dropped.
True.
So I think that's like a big part on why they unbanned alcohol. It's because the
Yeah.
crime rate of illegal distribution and selling.
Mhm.
Mm.
Finding the balance is what they needed.
Yeah.
Not just banning it altogether.
True.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to see, like the crime rate, how much higher it got when prohibition was
Yeah.
around.
Facts.
Like from how it skyrocketed
Mm-hmm.
because people were going to these 32,000 bars in this one city alone.
Facts.
Now, do you think that the police officers knew about these speakeasies but were paid off to keep their mouths
Oh,
shut?
for
I
sure.
absolutely believe
If
it.
there's 32,000, they had to.
At least a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many of them just didn't say anything because they wanted alcohol?
True.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And you could probably say the same thing about today
Mm.
with narcotics.
True. Yeah.
So yeah, I won't turn you in if I get some. But that might just wrap today up.
Yeah, there's a lot of important information we learned today.
That was. Should we do a recap quickly?
I believe so.
I guess.
So what was the first thing we talked about?
Talking about nativism and the immigration policies.
And then we talked about the spaghetti case.
Spaghetti.
Case
Sacco
of two
Vanzetti
men.
case.
Sacco Vanzetti case.
Come on, bro.
You'll get it
Keep
next
doing
time.
this.
I'll get it next time.
Then we spoke about the Ku Klux Klan,
Why
the
they-
National Origins Act, what all that entailed, the clash of cultures, changes for women,
religious fundamentalism.
And the prohibition. So, thank you guys for watching. If you want more history news, tune in to the next episode. It's been real.
It's been fun.
But it hasn't been real fun.
it's been something.
Peace.